In the year 1700, India was an economic superpower, a civilization of gold, silk, spices, mathematics, and unmatched craftsmanship, producing 1/4 of the world's wealth. Bengal alone was richer than all of Britain. But by 1947, at the moment of independence, India's share of the global economy had collapsed to less than 4%. Where did the wealth go? It didn't disappear. It was extracted through taxes, contracts, accounting, and trade laws carefully engineered over 2 centuries. Welcome to the financial timeline, where money, power, and history collide, and where nothing is as simple as it looks. Long before the Union Jack flew over Delhi, India was governed by the Mughal Empire, a sophisticated economic machine of 150 million people. Indian textiles were so valuable that European merchants risked 6-month voyages just to buy cotton. Meanwhile, in Britain, a new idea was reshaping power: the Joint Stock Company. In 1600, Queen Elizabeth I signed a charter for a private corporation, the East India Company. It wasn't a government, but it would soon build an empire larger than many governments. Its real strength wasn't soldiers or ships. Its power came from finance, insurance from Lloyd's, bonds from London bankers, and a credit network that allowed it to scale faster than any empire before. The company didn't want partnership. It wanted monopoly. 1757. The Battle of Plassey. Just 1,000 British soldiers, backed by strategic bribery, defeated the Nawab of Bengal. But the victory wasn't military. It was financial. The East India Company granted itself the right to collect Bengal's taxes. That moment created the world's first corporate colonial state. Within a decade, Bengal, one of the richest places on earth, was being drained of tens of millions of pounds every year. London prospered. Calcutta starved. In 1770, famine killed 10 million people. But the company's revenue rose because taxes never stopped, even during starvation. This wasn't chaos. It was accounting. The company realized something revolutionary. Why trade when you can tax? Why buy goods when you can force a colony to produce them for free? British economists called it progress. Indian economists called it what it truly was: the drain of wealth. Under the Raj, the extraction system became even more refined. The British created an elegant, invisible mechanism known as home charges annual payments. India was forced to make to Britain for British officials' salaries, British pensions, interest on railway loans raised in London, costs of the British Army in India, costs of British wars abroad. These payments had no real benefit for India. No goods, no services, just money flowing out every single year. By the early 1900s, these transfers exceeded £100 million annually, tens of billions in today's money. Across 2 centuries, the total extraction is estimated at $45 trillion. That's more than the GDP of the United States and China combined. Before British rule, India exported luxury textiles, steel, and finished goods. But under colonial policy, it became a supplier of raw cotton for British factories and a captive consumer of British textiles. The great weaving centers of Dhaka, once famous worldwide, collapsed. Indian looms went silent. Manchester mills glowed through the night. India was being deliberately turned from industrial competitor into agricultural colony. Shipbuilding, ironworks, carpentry, all were destroyed. Indian forests were cleared. Farmers were pushed into cash crops like indigo and opium instead of food. So when drought came, famine followed. Between 1876 and 1902, over 20 million people died in famines. Yet India continued exporting grain. A British official famously said famine relief would spoil the market. Markets had become more important than lives. The railways are often romanticized as Britain's gift to India, but here's the truth. They were built with British capital, under contracts guaranteeing a 5% return paid for by Indian taxpayers. If the railways didn't make money, India still had to pay British investors. The risk was Indian. The reward was British. This was colonial finance. Privatize the profit, socialize the cost. Indian soldiers fought Britain's wars worldwide, from Sudan to Singapore, and their salaries were deducted from Indian revenues. India wasn't just a colony, it was the empire's central bank. When the East India Company was dissolved, the extraction didn't stop. It simply changed its legal structure, and after India gained independence in 1947, it inherited poverty, deindustrialization, famine, low literacy, no capital reserves, but the world India entered wasn't equal. It was dominated by the same financial logic that once governed empire, only now it had new names. Structural adjustment, conditional loans, global trade rules today. Developing nations pay more than $200 billion every year to richer countries in interest and profit transfers. No armies, no flags, just ledgers. Empire moved from land to spreadsheets. Britain didn't conquer India with brute force. It conquered India with accounting, contracts, and credit. And the systems it created became the blueprint for the modern global economy. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. Extraction outlives empires, but resistance outlives extraction. Despite 2 centuries of systematic drain, India rebuilt, not through revenge, but through Today, India is one of the world's fastest-growing economies, but the scars of the ledger remain visible in the wealth gap between the global north and south. So, the question remains, when a system rewards extraction more than creation, is anyone truly free? If this changed how you see history, hit subscribe. History has answers. And here, we follow the money.